Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Isaiah, the 27th chapter. It says, deliverance of Israel. So this is Isaiah 27:1. In that day, the Lord Yahweh, with his sore and great and strong sword, shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Now, in this Isaiah 27:1, it's really written in a dark saying, okay, but it's it's not in a literal sense, right? The visual that's given of this sea serpent being slain by this giant sword isn't like the actual little aspect of what's going to happen, right? It's a representation of different things. So starting here with the sore and great and strong sword, right? That sword of the Lord that he's going to use to punish Leviathan here is the missiles, right? The missiles are also referred to as the weapon of the Lord's indignation in Isaiah, I believe is the, 54 and 16. Yeah, right, 54 and 16. Actually, hold on. This is good, but the one I'm looking for, I believe, is Isaiah 13. They come from a far country. Yep, Isaiah 13:5. Just getting to the point. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord Yahweh and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And for more context, we've done many videos on Isaiah the 13th chapter, but this is referring to the weapons of the Lord's indignation are the nuclear weapons that are designed by these different countries that will be used in World War III, right? And they're the Lord's weapons because he put it into their minds to design them, and he's also going to put it into their minds to use them for his purpose. So the Lord's sword here, all right, is referring to those nuclear weapons. And another precept real quick on that is in Revelation, or actually Isaiah 34:5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Okay, which are the modern day Edomites today. So when it says it's bathed in heaven, right? When you look at how these missiles are designed, they're shot off into the heavens. And then especially that's how they travel from one continent to another at that angle. All right. So they basically shot off and then they land upon their target. Now this Leviathan, the piercing serpent, is not talking about the actual sea serpent, Leviathan, that the Lord speaks about in the book of Job. Because, what purpose would the Lord have to destroy that creation in there? Okay. Now, when you deal with the term Leviathan, all right, or even, the serpent or dragon, this is a term that is used, or that can be used, to describe a nation of people, all right, or in general, a particular nation. So here, the Leviathan is really dealing with Esau, okay, and once again, more so the elites, because they have been likened onto that piercing serpent, right, or that crooked serpent. And I believe when you go into the word piercing, might be piercing. Yeah, it says here, fleeing or fugitive, right? Which we know this is a characteristic labeled upon Esau, starting with his forefather in the spirit, Cain. Okay, so going back to Isaiah 27:1, what Isaiah is prophesying about here is that there's going to come a time when the Lord is going to have his sword, or these nuclear weapons, be used as a form of judgment against Esau, right, or his empire in these last days. Okay, so they're likened onto that Leviathan piercing serpent, right? Even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea, right? And that's the Lord. So the Lord is going to use this event of World War III and the missiles being shot off to destroy Esau and his empire. Okay, and when I say destroy Esau, I don't mean exterminate the whole nation, but I mean to destroy their rulership and everything basically that they've built. All right, because that's going to be the time when they're now brought low and subject, and really as a nation they will be destructured. Okay, and subject onto the nation of Israel. Right now, another precept, real quick on this, or maybe two more. But one dealing with the dragon, right? Because this isn't the only reference in which the term dragon here is used. Now, when you see examples like this, and you might be a little unclear, you can try to look at cross references or other parts in the scriptures where this sort of saying is being used, right? And find out, okay, are there other instances where nations or people are described as objects or creatures here, right? And one example is even oftentimes the scriptures will describe Israel as a tree, right? Which we're about to even read about in the subsequent verses. And so you know that when you cross-reference it with other precepts, and then you see an example of that, and it makes it more clear in your mind that, okay, it's not talking about an actual sea serpent, okay, but this is a representation of a nation of people and the position that they hold, which is why they're likened onto this serpent. So now real quick, this is the book of Revelation 12, which is just another vision or visual of this dragon being slain, this dragon that is in the sea. So this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, right? And we know this dragon represents Esau and his armies and really his empire in these last days. And the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. So they're going to lose in this war, right? You're going to have World War III that's going to start, and eventually it's going to spiral into realm versus realm, as it is written in 2 Ezra 13. And the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven, right? Because they're going to be destroyed, both out of the condition of rulership and literally out of the skies. And the great dragon, right, which was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. And when you look into these words, you'll see that they're actually characteristics of men, which deceiveth the whole world. Now, whenever in history was there a great dragon or a physical snake that deceived the whole entire planet, right, or that deceived the whole world? I'm pretty sure we would all know about it if there was a serpent or a snake that actually went around deceiving the whole world. So we know that it's not talking about an actual serpent, but these are characteristics of a man or a nation of people. And if you want to point at who has deceived the whole world, records will show you that it points back to Esau. So we know here that the serpent is representing a nation of people, and then we see the same reference used in Isaiah 27. So we know that that's also referring to the same nation of people, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Okay, and that's when their empire crumbles and they become subject, all right, and serve that captivity. Now, lastly, I also want to get here in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, because it mentioned here the dragon that is in the sea. And in Revelation 17, right, in this vision that the Apostle John saw, he mentioned that he saw a great whore, which is also another dark saying or metaphorical representation of Babylon, America, or the head of Esau's empire. So personified, it would be Esau's nation, starting with his elites. So the Apostle John mentioned that he saw, or as the angel said, I will show you the judgment of the whore that sitteth upon many waters, right? Which that's what a sea is, right? A body of water. And so when you come down to the latter end, as the angel explains, he breaks it down to the Apostle John in verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou saw, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So here is referred to as like a whore that is sitting upon many waters. But when Isaiah saw it, it was like a serpent that is in the seas. Okay, the serpent is also the whore, And the seas are also the waters here, which represent peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Okay, which in this age Esau has the dominion over. So, in a nutshell, Isaiah 27:1 is going into the Lord bringing judgment against Esau and his empire by way of those missiles and that destruction. Verse 2: in that day sing ye unto her a vineyard of red wine, which this vineyard is representing the nation of Israel. And the singing unto her, like the visual here is back in the ancient world, when you had workers in the vineyard, it was common that they would sing, because most of the time, around the time when you really have to work in the vineyard, which if it's not like planting and clearing it and making sure that it's protected, it would mainly be during like the harvest time. And during the harvest time, it was a joyous season, so people would sing, people would rejoice. And so it was a common scene to have people singing in the vineyard, sometimes even about it. And Isaiah makes that example of reference here, right? In that day, sing ye unto her a vineyard of red wine. And when you go to the book of Isaiah, let me see if I can even cross-reference it. He mentions the same thing here in Isaiah 5, right? Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. So who is the beloved? The Most High. And who is the vineyard? Israel. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And when you go into Isaiah the 5th chapter, it's pretty much a parable to represent the condition that though the Lord nurtured and brought up Israel and planted them, that they should grow and be fruitful in the right way, they ended up bearing the wrong fruit, right, which was the fruit of iniquity. But the point here being that vineyard is a representation of Israel. Verse 3, I, the Lord Yahweh, do keep it, as we just read in Isaiah 5. It was his vineyard. And to keep it, meaning he keep, like in the imagery of a vineyard, he makes sure it's protected, right, and taken care of. I will water it every moment, lest any hurt it. I will keep it day and night, right, which is how the Lord feels about Israel. All right, and here, this would particularly apply to the elect of the nation of Israel. Fury is not in me, or in other words, the Lord's fury is gone. Who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? And the briars and thorns in the context of the vineyards would be like the enemies, right, or the foreign nations or threats to the Lord's vineyard or to Israel. So the Lord is saying here, if anybody, poses a threat, I'm going to basically go to war with them, right? So who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? I would go through them. I would burn them together, right? So the Lord would devour the enemies that threaten his vineyard. Or let him take hold on my strength, that he may make peace with me, and he shall make peace with me. So, in other words, if you come as an enemy, right, you're either going to come to war and get destroyed, or you're going to take hold of my strength, which in other words is saying you're going to try to make peace with the Lord. And the way these heathens would make peace with the Lord is to subject themselves under the rule of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. So it's either going to be one or the other. You're going to come to war, you're going to try to, come against the Lord and you're going to be destroyed, or you're going to subject yourself onto the Lord and basically play that role. Verse 6, he shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. And this is going to happen really when the Lord delivers Israel, because that's when we're going to have that peace and be really fruitful and multiply. Now, causing them that are of Jacob to take root is like when you plant a seed in the earth and it starts to grow. If it's well nurtured and taken care of, eventually it'll sprout, right? And then its roots will grow in the ground, right? As they get bigger and bigger and stronger, the tree is growing because it gets its nutrients from the soil through its roots. And then it mentions, right, Israel shall blossom and bud, that of the process of a growing tree, and shall fill the face of the world with fruit. So basically, the Lord is gonna have us planted surely, right, and nurtured and taken care of, and we're gonna blossom and grow as a nation. Verse 7: Hath he smitten him as he smote those that smote him? Or is he slain according to the slaughter of them that are slain by him? So this is dealing with Israel, right? And the Lord is saying here, has the Lord basically smitten Israel as he smote those that came against Israel? And what this is saying is like the Lord doesn't punish, like the Lord punishes Israel in measure, but not according to the or to the extent as he does with these heathens. Or is he slain according to the slaughter of them that are slain by him? So is Israel, uh, 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 you know, killed in judgment to the extent of those of the other nations that are slain in judgment? And the answer is no, right? Because the Lord punishes Israel in measure. Yes, we go into captivity. Yes, our sons and daughters get slain, but it's 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 not to the point of destruction. It's always still with measure. Even in the wrath of the Lord, right, he remembers mercy. And one example is the elect, right? Except the Lord should have left us a small remnant, we should have been like unto Sodom and unto Gomorrah. Verse 8, in measure, when it shooteth forth, thou wilt debate with it. So what it's saying here is in measure. Now, when it shooteth forth, the word shooteth forth goes into like separating, right? Or like being sent away. It's actually going to the word over there. Right. Shalach, which is to send or to send away. When you say shalach rayam, you're saying send that judgment, all right, or evils. So it says to send off, send away, to be sent off, to be put away, be divorced. So when you go back to the verse, what it's saying is that in measure, when the Lord, sends forth Israel, like when the Lord strives with Israel, he does it in measure, but really by way of exile, you could say, or putting them away for a period of time. Right? He stayeth his rough wind in the day of the east wind. And it's written in a metaphorical way, but what it means is the way the Lord judges Israel oftentimes, which is that debate, right, to strive with them, is by sending them forth or sending them away. And he drives them, because the word stayeth here actually goes into to drive out, right? So he stayeth his rough wind in the day of the east wind. So he drives them out, right? Basically with that east wind. And we know that east wind is a representation in most cases when this manifests, it's a representation of the Lord bringing a nation that then takes Israel captive, right, into some foreign land and then drives them out of that land. And when you see this, like for example, the NKJV, in measure, by sending it away, you contended with it. He removes it by his rough wind in the day of the east wind. And so it here, remember, we're still using the analogy of the vineyard. So by sending it away, that's how the Lord was to contend with it, right? And he removed it by the rough wind. Now we know that Israel is not a natural vineyard. So the rough wind or the east wind is not actual wind. The Lord doesn't send actual air to push people out of the land. He uses people, which are the nations, right? Or calamities to basically do this. NLT, no, but he exiled Israel to call her to account. She was exiled from her land as though blown away in the storm from the east. By measure, by exile, you contend with them. He removed them with his fierce breath in the day of the east wind. So I think you get the point now. Verse 9, by this, therefore, shall the iniquity of Jacob be purged. And then it's going to explain what that this is. And this is all the fruit to take away his sin. When he maketh all the stones of the altar as chalk stones that are beaten in sunder, and that those altars are these the altars of the idols, right? The groves and images shall not stand up. So by the destruction or by destroying and doing away with those altars and groves that Israel would worship these idols with, that would be the way to take the iniquity or purge the iniquity out of Jacob, right? And the fruit to take away his sin. Because Israel, particularly at this time, and really all throughout Israel's history, they've been heavily into idolatry, and that's been a great stumbling block for Israel. So by destroying that and doing away with that in judgment, that would be a way to purge out a great deal of iniquity out of Jacob. Verse 10, yet the defense city shall be desolate and the habitation forsaken, right? So even though the Lord punishes in measure, right, and he drives Israel out of the land, and even though, iniquity can be purged by the destroying of these altars and these idols, there's still a judgment, right, or a punishment that will befall Israel, and that is the desolation, as it says, of the defense city, which the defense city is Jerusalem, right, and the habitation forsaken and left like a wilderness. There shall the calf feed, and there shall he lie down and consume the branches thereof. Because what happens when, say, Jerusalem is destroyed and is left waste? You have the trees and so on that grow in what used to be the cities populated by people, and then you have the sheep and the calves that basically find their way over there and they come and eat. And we know that at the time of Isaiah, right, he prophesied prior to the Babylonians coming up and destroying Jerusalem, which they actually did. So we know that in process of time, this is something that actually happened, right? It's something that actually manifested, where Jerusalem was made desolate, right? In the sense that it was laid down, the walls were destroyed, the temple was burned, and it was likened unto a habitation that was forsaken, though you had remnants of the people that were left in the land. In comparison to what it used to be, it would be likened unto a habitation that's forsaken or a wilderness. Verse 11, when the boughs thereof are withered, like the branches, they shall be broken off. The women come and set them on fire. This is what happens, right? In general, you have a tree, right? It withers, whether it's like, I don't know, fall season, for example. If you look at a tree, you see how the branches look. It's easy to just break them off, or sometimes they just fall off and they're gathered, right? Women come and gather them for fire, right? That they can use. They gather sticks for the fire. So here Isaiah is likening the condition that Israel is in onto this vineyard whose boughs are withered and basically broken off and are gathered to be used for fire. And the reason they end up in this condition is because, as it says, for it is a people of no understanding. And in other precepts, it's worded as, my people are sottish children, they have not known me, right? A foolish nation. For it is a people of no understanding, therefore he that made them will not have mercy on them, and he that formed them will show them no favor. And this similar to what the Lord said via the prophet Hosea, right? That they are not my people, and I will not have mercy on them. So for a period of time, because of Israel's disobedience, right, this applied to us, right, to where the Lord didn't have mercy on us or show us that favor, leading to us being in this condition here, likened onto that dried up, messed up tree, right, not being fruitful, but really being in a destroyed state. But verse 12, and it shall come to pass in that day. Once again, when you see that phrase in that day, this is a future event. And really, what we're about to read is pertaining to the last days. That the Lord Yahweh shall beat off from the channel of the river onto the stream of Egypt, and ye shall be gathered one by one, O ye children of Israel. Now, the term beat off here is, it's like a threshing, okay? So that's how you get, right, to beat out, beat off, or thresh. And what what happens here when you get the sheaves and you throw them on the threshing floor, you thresh it to get the grains out, okay, then which are then gathered. And so what it's saying here is that the Lord is going to thresh from the channel, or like the border of the river. When you see the term the river here, it's in terms of like geographical locations, it's usually referring to the Euphrates River. Right now, if we go back to this and we pull this up, if we look up the river, yes, the meaning of the word actually means like streams. But when you look here, you'll see in the Strong's definitions, right, including the sea, expectation, the Nile, Euphrates, etc. So sometimes the scriptures don't always refer to the Euphrates by name, because it's inferred, right? At the time, if somebody mentioned the river, it was understood that this is referring to the Euphrates. So what it's saying here is that the Lord is going to thresh all the way from there onto the streams of Egypt, right? Which is like encompassing this large territory. And we know what nation is also by the Euphrates over there is Assyria, right? If we look here, map of Syria, Bible. If we zoom in a bit, right, you'll see here you have Assyria over here, and then you have Ashur over here, and right on its west you have the Euphrates. Okay, so going back to Isaiah, and you'll see why this all makes sense soon enough. And ye shall be gathered one by one, O ye children of Israel. So it's using the imagery of threshing, like a huge ass threshing floor that's being threshed, and the grain is being gathered. And here that is the representation of deliverance, right? The gathering of the Israelites that are scattered in these different regions are likened unto the Lord threshing and gathering those grains over there, which is really going to happen ultimately when the Lord comes back. And then in verse 13, it reiterates that point, right, in slightly different verbiage. So it says here, and it shall come to pass in that day that the great trumpet shall be blown, and they shall come which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and shall worship the Lord Yahweh in the holy mount at Jerusalem. Now, we know that in prophecy, Assyria is a representation, like prophetic Assyria is Babylon, right, or America, and so is Egypt, right, as it's even written in Revelation 11. So here, as it's saying, and it shall come to pass in that day that a great trumpet shall be blown. And it mentions right in Matthew 24, and he shall send his angels with the sound, or with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, right? So similarly, that trumpet is going to be blown, and they shall come. How are they going to come? By being gathered, which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, right? If you look at in the order of prophecy, the elect being delivered, right? Firstly, focusing on Babylon, is going to be, as the scriptures say, the righteous shall scarcely be saved. And the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and they shall worship the Lord in the holy mountain at Jerusalem. Now, these locations do, right, in prophecy represent Babylon, but they also represent the various lands of our captivity. Now, you notice, because we know that Israel is going to be scattered, and so when the Lord comes back, that gathering is going to happen in the various regions where Israel has been scattered, oftentimes being places of our captivity. Now, when you look at, I think even in Isaiah 19, right, you'll see the mention of like Assyria and Egypt again, as also mentions of places of our captivity. And keep in mind that at the time of Isaiah, the two main places of captivity are Assyria and Egypt, right? Because we were captives in Egypt. We came to the land. The northern kingdom got taken captive to Assyria. So at the time of Isaiah, the Greeks hadn't come up into power yet. So we hadn't been under the Greek captivity, right? The Romans hadn't come up into power yet. The Persians hadn't come up into power yet. So the two main known places, and even the Babylonians hadn't come up into power yet. So the two main known places of our captivity were Assyria and Egypt. But we know that now, at the time when this prophecy or this vision will be fulfilled, it's going to be obviously in the various areas where we've been scattered, right? That go beyond Assyria and Egypt. But here they are mentioned because they're two main places of our captivity, right? And the outcasts here being the Israelites that are scattered in those regions, in particular the elect, because they're the ones who are going to be gathered out and ultimately brought to worship the Lord in the holy mountain at Jerusalem. And I believe that's also in the book of Baruch, the 4th chapter. And so with that, that brings us to the end of the book of Isaiah, the 27th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.